The chapter starts with Luffy and his group arriving at the Arust Castle of the Western Village. Road explains that this castle is not used after King Harold's death, so he's surprised to see that the front door is damaged and the guards are gone. Zoro notices the front door was broken from the inside. They cross the front door and arrive to a destroyed courtyard. Road says that those are the marks of the fierce battle that took place in the castle when Loki killed King Harold. Zoro says, the forces that left these must have been fearsome. Road says, as you all know, Loki is a monster, but King Harold was also a man known as the Great Warrior. The fate of the castle was sealed the moment that battle broke out. Luffy and his group enter inside the castle, which is also badly damaged. There are many skeletons of giants on the floor. Apparently more than 100 giant warriors were slain on that day by Loki. Jarl and Loki were the only two survivors. So we're getting more insight into what had happened between Loki and King Harold, where all that we really know was that Loki killed King Harold, stuck a sword into Jarl's head, and then took the legendary devil fruit and then ate it. But considering that there's so many skeletons here, I don't know if it's that clear cut. I don't think Loki is just some kind of despicable villain at this point. I think there is more to what had happened here. Luffy sees a skull with horns similar to oars. Road explains that there are some giants that inherited some blood of the ancient giant tribe. However, there are no longer pure blood members of the ancient giant tribe. They find a picture of King Harold in a portrait hanging on the wall. It's the same portrait we saw in the last chapter, but now we can see it entirely. King Harold was a bald and fierce-looking giant with a huge black mustache and beard. He also had 2 huge scars on his head and a lion tattoo on his face, just like Ripley. Alright, so we're also getting more insight into this whole ancient giant and current giant lineage here. In the previous spoilers, I wasn't really sure if this meant that all giants come from the ancient giants, but read on here is saying that some giants that inherited the blood of the ancient giant tribe, those like oars. So I kind of like that better because I would prefer it if the giants were just their own inherent thing and not just the offspring of the ancient giant. We still have little to no info about where they come from or what they are, but I'm sure that will be a big plot point going forward because I'm sure they have something to do with Joy Boy. Road says, that is a portrait of King Harold, a man who loved peace and sought to connect Elbaph with nations of the world. He was said to be the greatest king Elbaph has ever seen. And Luffy says, he looks strong. Road says, the marks on his head are what remains after he pulled out his own horns, a reminiscent of ancient giant tribe. He said that the ancient giant tribe would remind people of the warring periods. Luffy says, he had horns? And Zoro says, that's some resolve. Road explains that Hyrule is Loki's half-brother. Hyrule was born between Harold and another giant woman before Harold married Loki's mother. Hyrule's mom couldn't become queen of Elbaph because she was a giant from another country and was looked down upon since many in Elbaph would like to preserve pure Elbaph blood. Okay, so we speculated about this yesterday, and it turns out, yeah, Hyrule's mother is from another country, so I guess all giants don't come from Elbaph or something. And yes, this confirms that Hyrule is Loki's half-brother, similar to Loki and Thor from the MCU, but I think in the actual Norse mythology, Loki and Thor are not related. I could be wrong though, let me know in the comments. Zoro asks why Road chose to be on a ship of a half-blood like Hyrule. We see a small flashback when Road was bullied as a child because he was an otaku? What? But Hyrule was impressed with his map drawing skill and asked to be his friend. Hyrule looks similar to when we saw him in Big Mom's flashback. Road says that Hyrule withstood all insult and humiliation he received as a half-blood. Hyrule's dream is to become the king of all giants, not just Elbaph, and unite all giant tribes in the world. As they speak, Luffy notices the guards lying on the ground. We don't see their bodies yet. Cut to the underworld, and we see that Loki's face is covered in blood because Gunko is attacking him with her powers. Gunko enlarges her boots with arrows to make herself taller. That way she can attack Loki's face easily. Gunko says, perhaps you understand now. Loki says, like I said, I can't move a muscle right now. Hooded Shanks says, it won't change anything even if you could. Gunko says, low-class being, a chance for you to be risen to godhood. Such honor is originally something out of your reach, even if you yearn for it. And here we are, offering it to you. Gunko creates some arrows coming out of her feet. That arrows mark the trajectory that Gunko's attacks will follow. Darn it, again? You will kick the right side of my face with an accelerated kick. Ugh. And when my head is turned to the side from the impact, you will deliver an uppercut with that fist. Thanks for the heads up. Gunko says, those arrows are the determined course of my future. In other words, the declaration of violence that cannot be avoided. However, it's possible to stop them. I ask you once more, Loki, will you join the Holy Knights? And Loki says, no way I would, you fool. So we're getting more insight into Gunko's devil fruit here. And a little later, it's going to be revealed that it's called the arrow fruit, which clearly, as we can see or read here, that it just allows her to manipulate these tangible arrows, and it can make clothes and stuff too. It's almost like an arrow logia, which I know doesn't make sense. Obviously, I'm not saying it is literally a logia, but you know what I mean. There's also some kind of weird predetermined trajectory aspect to it where you can see it and it can be avoided. Not really sure. I'm gonna have to see the page for itself. In an amazing double page, Gunko starts walking on top of the arrows she created. And when Loki rejects them again, she attacks him just as Loki predicted. First, an accelerated kick in the right side of Loki's face, and then a powerful uppercut. To attack Loki's giant body, Gunko creates huge boots and gauntlets with her arrows. Loki finally loses consciousness due to Gunko's attacks. We also see that the other animals also fell by her arrows when they try to defend Loki. In an absolutely epic final double page of the chapter, Hooded Shanks takes off his black cloak, and we finally discover his true appearance and who he really is. He says, change of plans. Contact Mary Joie. Everyone is so utterly useless. I hoped for this to go in a more clever direction. His name is revealed to be Figureland Shamrock. He's the leader of the Holy Knights and the son of Saint Garling, one of the 5 elders. Gunko says, indeed, I don't think death would change anything. Does this have to do with their fate? Figureland Shamrock is exactly like Shanks, but without the scar on his face, with long hair and a braid to hold his hair back, and of course, with 2 arms, lol. Shamrock wears a classic military uniform similar to those British or French soldiers of the 17th century, with high boots and a scarf around his neck, and he also carries a sword on his waist. The chapter ends with Shamrock looking at the unconscious Loki. Shamrock says, the ferocious warriors of Elbaph who once conquered the New World in ancient times. We, the world government, will bring them under our command at all costs. End of chapter, no break next week. So here it is, the big reveal of Shamrock. Yeah, not the name that we were expecting, especially if you're like from the western side of the world, you know, more so North America. You're very familiar with shamrocks and what they represent. So it doesn't really sound that cool, I guess, to us, but maybe people on the eastern side of things, it sounds different and cool to them. And it has a SHA in the beginning of it, just like Shanks does, but that's besides the point. His name is Shamrock, and it probably has something to do with the shamrock leaf itself, how the shamrock has like 3 petals, the Trinity, you know, Garling, Shanks, Shamrock, maybe there's more to it. But yeah, we're seeing what he looks like here, or at least we eventually will. And pretty cool so far. But let me know what you think about this in the comments. What do you think about the reveal of Figureland Shamrock here, as well as what happened with Loki? And if you liked the video, please give it a like and please subscribe if you haven't already. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.